and a very warm welcome to our International Women's Day webinar. Excuse me, let me clear my throat. Now, it's great to have your company wherever you are in the world, and we are delighted that you are able to join us for this very interesting and thought-provoking discussion on a day celebrating the achievements of women in many diverse fields across the globe. My name is Samina Ali Khan. I work as a television presenter for ITV based in the UK. And today I'm going to be your chair for the session, which is called A Seat for Everyone, Reflections on Women in Transport. Now, we have a great panel of very accomplished women to talk us through the challenges and the opportunities that have allowed them to achieve and indeed flourish in what is a predominantly male-dominated industry. They're going to share their experiences, both good and bad. And from this, we're going to share the learning and perhaps draw links between our three organisations, who are, of course, Go Ahead, Kinetic and Globalvia. Now, we also would like to talk about the positive steps that are being taken to encourage more women into transport. The format of today is very simple. It's a discussion. We would love to hear your questions too. We will have about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of this hour to put your questions to our speakers. So please do get in touch. And you can do this by using the option on your screen. So we look forward to hearing those. And let's begin by introducing our panel. And they are Angie Doll, who is the Chief Operating Officer, GTR, also Govia Thameslink Railway. I'll tell you a little bit about Angie. She's responsible for the smooth running of a network accounting for a fifth of all passenger journeys in the UK. That's on Thameslink, Great Northern, Southern and Gatwick Express. GTR actually employs 7,500 people. Angie joined the railway family in 1999 as a station manager at Brighton, and she worked her way up through the ranks at Go Ahead, including overseeing the customer service element of the UK's first high-speed rail service, which has been very successful, operated by South Eastern in 2009. She's also championed diversity at GTR by spearheading initiatives to recruit more female drivers, increase the intake of apprenticeships, and she's done that through programs such as Get Into Railways, running in partnership with the Prince's Trust. So welcome to Angie. We also have with us Michaela Hanney, who's the Executive General Manager, NSW, VIC, TAS, Kinetic. Now, Michaela, or Mac as we like to call her, leads Kinetic's business in 3 states across Australia's southern region. She's responsible for a team of 2,000 people delivering urban, school, intercity, charter and airport bus services. She oversees Australia's largest bus contract, covering 1/3 of Melbourne's bus network. Also, Kinetic's iconic Skybus service, one of the world's most frequent airport transfer services, is also among her responsibilities. Mac is also the face of Kinetic's First Future CEO programme, one of 2 key initiatives Kinetic's introduced as part of its policy to drive the gender balance. And last but not least, we have Maria Porter-Ferrer. Now, Maria is the Talent Communication and CSR Manager for Globalvia. Maria is responsible for defining, implementing and managing the group's procedures and policies regarding recruitment, learning and development, appraisals, compensation, employee climate and succession plans. As you can see, she has a very large remit. Maria also manages the internal and external communication processes of the Globalvia Group. She carries out marketing, advertising and public relation activities to maintain and indeed increase the value of the Globalvia brand in the market. Now, her passion lies in attracting and engaging innovative talent, also creating leadership and managing change programs that really do have an impact. So, as I said, 3 very accomplished women on our panel today on International Women's Day. So we welcome to them all, and let's begin with our questions. So one as an opener, I guess, ladies, to all of you, why choose a career in transport? Angie, let's start with you.
I think I always wanted to work in travel from a very early age, and I did that I went to work in Spain. I went for 6 months and I stayed for 12 years, and I was working in the tourist and leisure industry, so it was very much involved with people being on holiday, bus transport and planes and automobiles. And then I came back into the UK in 1999, and there was an opportunity in the railway, and I thought I would join for 2 years. It was another transport that I could sort of get to grips with. And 25 years later, I'm still here because it's just a great industry to be in, because transport is what keeps our economies running, and transport is what can take a small community that might be struggling to become a thriving community if they have great transport. So I think for me, transport unlocks so much in communities and is integral in people's lives in a way that people don't often think about. So that's what attracts me to transport, the impact it has on people.
And they say, don't they, that once you do join rail in particular, it's a career for life, isn't it?
Yes, I've just done the Long Service Awards last week, and there are the people there who've done 40, 50, 60 years worth of service, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, isn't it? Real career for life there. Mac, what about you? Why did you choose a career in transport?
I almost feel as though I didn't. It was one of those things I think I very much fell into, but I'm so glad I did. So I was a lawyer. I went to law school. I went and worked at one of those top tier law firms, Herbert Smith Freehills, who's known both here in Australia and obviously the UK as well. And I sort of just got itchy feet quite quickly, and so started to look at which clients that we worked with really excited me, and Kinetic was one that stood out from the pack. So I came across to Kinetic as a lawyer and thought perhaps it would be a stepping stone to a legal career somewhere else. But as soon as I walked through the door, I got pretty excited about the things we were doing and where we were going, and transport as an industry was so different to what I expected looking from the outside in.
And Maria, what about yourself? How did you come to have a transport career?
I think I didn't choose it as Angie. I think that I run into it more like Michaela. I majored in law, but I decided that I didn't want to work as a lawyer. And I found and I discovered about myself that I love to connect people. And suddenly I found an opportunity at Globalvia after 4 years working for Deloitte as HR consultant. I moved to Globalvia. I thought that it would be a step for then changing to another company maybe. And I found home. This is a place that I love to be working for. Because as Angie was saying before, I've learned that we connect people to possibilities. It's a privilege to work in a sector in which you can say that about what you do. I really believe that we work for something that makes the world a better place. And that source of connection, of possibilities, of choice that transport brings, I think that that's something that aligns with my values. So I ended up here not by choice, but by chance, and I love it.
Yeah, well, it certainly sounds like all three of you made the choice, but then have stayed and enjoy what you do. But it's not been without challenges, has it, to get to where you've got? So I wonder, Maria, if you could just give us a couple of the challenges that you've had to overcome, the main ones really throughout your career.
I've had a lucky career I haven't found major challenges for being a woman, for example, but I found challenges right now changing how we view some things that are happening in the market right now with regards of the challenges of adding new talent to our companies. We are viewing from recruitment departments, from HR departments in all our subsidiaries, we are seeing major changes, and we have to help I would say, other generations and other ways of doing. We have to help them make the change and adapt to what the new people are asking from us right now. So I think that the main challenge right now would be to remain inspiring and to help people decide to join our company and then decide to develop themselves within the company. I think that is the main challenge that I have right now.
And a lot of that hinges then on you leading by example, doesn't it, really? That's what you're saying, keeping them inspired to join. We'll come back to that in just a second. Mac, I just wondered what sort of challenges you've had to overcome, because I hope you don't mind me saying, but are you one of the youngest really to have achieved where you've achieved basically your level, certainly in this transport industry?
Yes, I am, and I think that age does have an overlaying factor. I think we talk about intersectionality a lot when it comes to our experience as a woman, and I think age is one of those additional factors that contributes to some additional challenges. So I'm very lucky. I don't experience and haven't experienced overt sexism in my current role, but I think what I do experience and what I feel like my peers experience is that sort of undertone of othering that is systemic in the transport industry and in other industries as well. So it's conversations where I'm referred to as a girl or darling or honey or those sorts of female language words that aren't necessarily set out to be malicious or ill-intended, but leave me feeling young and female in a world that is very much it's not a female industry. And so those are the challenges, and trying to turn that tide, I think, without, unsettling the boat and upsetting too many people is a difficult challenge, but one I'm very committed to.
Okay, we will come back to how you're actually dealing with that and the sort of initiatives that are in place. But Angie, just want to get your take as well on the sort of challenges you think you felt and certainly had to overcome in your career, which is quite long-standing, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't really have any challenges in my sort of tourism and leisure. It was really more when I came into the railway. And the first challenge I had, because I came into station manager, a fairly senior position in the railway, was the challenge about my knowledge and experience, because at that point, people in the railway really did come up through the ranks. You think I've come up through the ranks, you started on the gate line, on the ticket office, dispatching trains. So I had quite a lot of hostility towards me because people couldn't understand how I could lead people in an industry that I hadn't done everybody's job, because it really goes on your experience and your knowledge. I think the other thing is being the only female in a room with lots of males, and I always keep it's a habit that I've always done. I always write down what it is because I just find it quite amusing. And over the years, there are more women coming into the room, not just in our organisation, but at industry events. And I would often be in a room of 50 men and be the only woman in the room. And then people who would come in would automatically assume that I was there to take the notes or I was there to make the tea. Or people would come in and ask me if I was the secretary. Oh, I'm coming to meet the MD. Are you her secretary? No, I am the MD. And the unions were quite interesting because, in those male-dominated areas, whilst I got into the railway and stations was okay, penetrating and really getting into that operational side of it, where it was all men, took me a little bit longer with a little more determination. I think by then I'd had 10 or 11 years in the railway. So by then my knowledge, that credibility through my knowledge was enabling that pathway. But earlier in my career, I couldn't break into that side of the business so easy. I think that's changed now.
Okay, so obviously you've had to overcome those challenges, all three of you, and they have been quite significant challenges from what you're saying. And I know you talk about sexism and everyday sexism in to some degree, and say, that was always there. But how did you overcome them? Because I think that's the interesting aspect of all of this. You've all done it, but how did you do it? How did you put that right, so to speak? Angie, start with you.
I can give a really good look when I want to, and my look can just cut somebody straight down. So I think with me, I'm confident in my approach. So people who, if I felt that the language was not appropriate, I would call it out straight away.
Okay, and even if you were one woman amongst 50 men,
yeah, I would still say that's not appropriate. I'm not your love. I'm not your darling. My name is Angie. That's how I like to be referred to.
And it worked.
Yeah, there's something about when you say it with a level of confidence and a look that, yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, I can sense even from the way you're saying that it would have worked. Mac, what about you? How have you overcome that, especially being young as well? Because that's really quite offensive, really, isn't it, to assume that you wouldn't know because you're too young, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I certainly don't consider it a past tense term. I think we're overcoming it, and unfortunately, the battle is ongoing. But yeah, I think Angie's right. Calling it out on the spot and feeling confident to do that is a huge part of it. I think surrounding yourself by good mentors, good peers, both men and women, so that you feel supported to be able to do that, and then report it back, and then share your learnings with others. I think I was having a conversation with someone today who'd been called the B word, and I, we sort of spoke through what did you do about that, and she, felt that she had acted too strongly in standing down her bus driver who had spoken to her like that. And I said, no, you did the right thing. And so it's about, I think, having the people around you to feel empowered, but then empowering others around you to then make those same decisions and to do what Angie said, just to call it out. Okay, so that's coming through loud and clear. Maria, you've called it out, I'm assuming, as well, when it's happened to you?
I think that what Mac is saying is very, very important. We need a network for that. And we also need conversations, as Angie was saying before. And those conversations are not easy. I think that we have to be ready to have the hard conversations, to be able not only to call it on the spot. In my experience, I've been very lucky this hasn't happened to me, but I've had to have conversations in which I say, this is not okay. And the thing is that if you do it in a very aggressive way, sometimes what the other does is build up the defenses, and then you cannot change the other's opinion. I try to remember that I don't want to be right. I want to get it right for everybody, not for me. And I think that it's also about helping the other person how to change some things that up till 5 minutes ago were acceptable, and now they're not longer acceptable. And that's hard for some people to understand. For that, I need a network. This is not women's issue. This is about everybody's issue. And I think that we have to make that effort to include other people in the conversation. We need mentors. That's very, very important. We need other women in the room. What Angie is saying is capital. We still have at Globalvia, in some, for example, in our southern railway in Spain, we only have one female driver. One of our managers in Chile is the only female manager among the other managers. We need other women in the room, and that has to be a choice that the organization make. And that has to be an objective, because then the whole organization sees that this is serious and that we are all working on that direction.
Okay, no, I hear what you're saying, and I think that's probably something that a lot of people will agree with, that it's an organization-wide problem and therefore should be dealt with by an organization rather than just the women within that organization. I just wondered what you think women bring to the workforce. Why should every organization really hire women? Because we do have skills and we do have abilities, I think, that perhaps we underrate ourselves. What would you say are the best things about having women as part of a big and growing workforce? You can take that if you like, Maria. We'll go back down again.
All right, perfect. From my point of view, I think I like to see it in a two-dimension way. If I think about what women bring, I think that we bring lots of skills. From my point of view, we are more connected to the earth, if you allow me to say that. It's about, if you allow me, cutting the bullshit. We're ready to talk, and we're ready to talk straight, and we're ready to have the difficult conversation. We are ready to face the challenges, not only for us, but for other minority groups in our sector as well. And I think we are so much better sometimes with dealing with our time and the time of others. And I think that we bring that to the table. And for me, it is also about a bigger dimension. We want women because women are responsible for 85% of the purchasing decisions nowadays. Of course, we want women in our sector. This is about moving society. So we want that women that we want to be moved as part of our company, not only designing, for example, the rail or the bus or the highway, but also in the day-to-day basis. And we want women in all our levers of layers of the company. And also because we know that improves the world. In all the households that we allow women to have a job and that they can feel fulfilled because they have a job opportunity, that's better for everyone. So I would say those are two dimensions. It's better for the organization and it's better for the world that we want.
Yeah. And lots of women are working mums, aren't they, as well? That's the other thing, isn't it? They are able to manage their time very well because they have to.
Yes.
Mac, what about you? Why do you think organizations, and certainly why does your organization benefit from having more women in the workforce?
Yeah, I think picking up on what Maria said, half of our public transport users, half of the people that take our buses are women, and yet only 15% of our workforce is women. And so we need to attract more women to be able to understand 50% of our passenger journeys, to understand the challenges that women face in terms of safety on our network, in terms of the types of journeys they're taking, which tend to be much shorter and over much more modal transport options. We need to attract women into our business to think for our passengers, and as Maria says, to think for other women and why they're not joining our business and how we can actually improve the livelihoods of the women who are already in the business. We need women to be able to attract women and to retain women.
Why do you think, well, I should say, what is putting women off from joining, certainly when they're working in the bus industry? What are the problems? What are the main specific issues?
I think there's two factors, and that's, simplifying it, much too much. But essentially, I think there's two factors. One is structural. The way that we roster our work is incredibly unappealing to women. So women who have childcare responsibilities, who are often, got lots of mouths to feed, they can't work the hours that are required of a bus driver. And so we're really reviewing how we can change that. And I had some conversations earlier today about women who are required to work over the school pickup hours. They simply can't do it and get their kids home on time. The other is cultural. Our depots are very male. They have typically always been built for males. We haven't had female toilets. We haven't had safe spaces in which women feel that they can express themselves and take sort of a minute for themselves and to discuss others. And the language that is used around depots is very aggressive. There's a lot of swearing. So it's two things. I think it's the structural inequity and also the cultural inequity.
Okay, so both of those really quite difficult to overcome, aren't they? I know things are in place, and we'll come back to exactly what's being done in just a second. I just want to bring Angie in as well, because the proportion of women working in rail is also low, isn't it, Angie? And I just wondered, is there other things that are putting women off there in that industry?
Yeah, we've managed to get to about 20%, but it's not equal distribution across all the roles. The admin, the station roles, as I've said, we've done quite well in that. But in the operational roles and the engineering roles, we've really had to work very hard at getting that percentage up. But I think going back to your original question about what do women bring, obviously that diversity, they bring a different, it changes the environment and the whole feel. I think for women as well, and again, it might be a bit generalism, but I think women are more prepared to ask questions when they're not sure. They don't need to feel as if, should I really ask that question? I should know that. Or when they're challenged by the union or something like that. I'm finding, especially the women managers in my middle management team, and we had a big conference yesterday, and it was great to see so many women in the room who are driver managers now, who are looking after 30, 40 drivers and listening to them. And you just hear by the way they say things that they are naturally quite curious. They're not afraid to show their vulnerabilities in some ways. And there is less of that sort of, I couldn't possibly say that I might not be sure about this. And I think for me, it's that level of that being more curious, not afraid to ask so many questions sometimes. I think that's another thing that women I see in my environment definitely bringing to the table, and showing other people that it's okay to ask for help. I need a bit of help. I've got to go and pick up my kids. Can somebody come and help me? And it actually then, when they start asking for help, and you do that in a way where you create psychological safety for people to ask for help, then I see the male colleagues in the room also saying, well, actually, I've been feeling a little bit like that, but I wasn't sure whether I should say that. So I think that whole dimension, it does really a different dimension to it.
Yeah, and that's certainly good for the entire workforce, isn't it, as you say? Just back to some of the issues, certainly the ones that Mac just raised about why women perhaps are put off from joining the industry. And I know she mentioned shifts and also the image of the industry, the structural side of it, in that some of the depots are very male orientated and they're built for men. Heavy machinery, I'm guessing, is probably an issue for you, isn't it, in your industry? And because women would have to lift heavy machinery, or do they?
Not so much now. You know, trains are like cars now. They're all computers. You know, everything is done remotely. If there is any heavy lifting that needs to be done in the depot, that's not done manually anymore. We've got machines and equipment to do that. So all the physical things that may be the physicality side of it, that maybe women felt that they couldn't do it, a lot of those barriers have been taken away now. And I think with the generation that's coming up, they see things as they're more blurred in where jobs are. People don't create boundaries and barriers for themselves. You know, there's less what I call pink and blue jobs. People think, well, why couldn't I be that? I think one of the big things we found is where we advertise for people, and we had to completely change where we advertise for women and the way that we advertised and the way that we constructed our adverts to attract more women. And it was more about attracting people in around the job and what it delivers. You know, I talked about it. You know, I always say to people, we move people, that's what we do. The mechanism we do it through in my organisation is a train, you know, Mackie's organisation is a bus, but we are about moving people. And they rarely get up every day and say, oh, I just pop on the train and see where I want to go today. People have a reason why they're doing it. So we're enabling people's lives. So when you put it in that way, people then are thinking, actually, this is more of a community role. This is more something like as if I was a nurse or something like that. So it just changes people's perception of what it is that you're doing in transport.
So you changed the wording. Is that what you did specifically?
We've changed the way that we put the wording out. We changed the places where we put the ads. You know, we've worked with groups like returning mums groups to bring women back who are returning back from work back into rail. You know, we've done showcased women that have come in from other industries, such as nursing, where we've done big profiles in the local media, in the areas where we're recruiting. And I'm pleased to say now, we get a lot of applications for a train driver's job, but now we are seeing more women, because before we had less women applying, and now we're seeing lots more women applying, which is why we're able to get to a ratio now of new drivers intake being 50 male, 50 female.
Great. So it's really, really working. Michaela, tell us about the Women Up Front campaign, because that's something you're doing, isn't it, to encourage more women to actually join the industry?
Yeah, it's very similar to sort of what Angie was saying. So we're looking to actually go out and try and find women rather than just waiting for them to come and apply. We're actually going out to female-dominated industries to target people who may be nurses, which typically, historically, has been more of a female role. And so we're looking to recruit them in, and then we're empowering them to say, you know, we will help you get your bus license. So we will take you out. We have female mentors and female driving instructors to teach you how to drive a bus, because it can feel daunting. If you've never driven a bus before, you might think you're not able to, but I can assure you, you absolutely can. And then once they move through the program, we're then actually looking at those shift times that I mentioned before to work out how we can actually structure them such that they can make the school pickup, or better still, they can drive the school route that their children go to school on if they do happen to have children. And those sorts of changes, which seem small, but are actually massive in terms of how we can attract women and then, more importantly, retain them.
Yeah. So you are able to change the shift pattern slightly. Is that what you're saying? Because I know you said that the shift pattern is perhaps one of the biggest barriers, because it's not family friendly times, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we can do anything we put our minds to, and so it's been a big struggle, and we're certainly looking at it and working with our network planners, and it's not rolled out everywhere, and we're certainly, you know, there's a lot of work to be done to get it completely right. But we are looking at chopping and changing shifts, at working at rolling them up into sort of more steady and longer term outlook. So a lot of people complain that they don't know what their next month looks like, for example, but they know that their child has to do something on Thursday the 30th. So we're looking at giving longer forecasting so that people can plan their lives around their work.
Yeah, and I can imagine that that's very much appreciated. Marie, what about for you? What sort of initiatives have been put in place to encourage more women to join your particular organisation?
In some things, they're similar to what, for example, Mac and Angie are saying with regards to the forecasting, because the longer the forecast, the better and the easier for the people to organize themselves around it. So we're working on that with regards to railway and highways. We still have to do much more efforts to advertise and explain to women why they should join us. And I think that's a shift in perspective. It's not about the business doing the business. It's about what do you want? If you want to have more women, you'll have to decide and to ask the questions to see what is it that attracts women, and then change your job descriptions. For example, that's very, very important. I was talking the other day to a person that works in Metro de Sevilla, again in Sevilla in Spain, and she was saying that they've had to change all the job descriptions. That happens as well for the C-level positions, and that's something that because sometimes when you look at our sector, you're only thinking about the maintenance and the operation, but what about the C-level? At Globalvia, for example, we only have 2 women as part of the steering committee. If we want a change, we should be wanting a change in all the levels of the organization, and we need more women there. And we see that when you get higher on the scale, less women want to be part of that. We get less applications for that. And we have to analyze why is that? Because we're losing talent and we're losing perspective if we don't get women for that layer of the organization.
So what are you finding? Have you analysed that particular problem, and what are you finding? Why are they leaving?
It's not that they are leaving, it's that when we want...
Not progressing.
Yeah, or that's the thing is that when we have an opening, we have less women applying. Sometimes it's because they think that they are not prepared. Others because the culture is still a male culture and they are afraid. I mean, are they going to have the conversations they want to have? Is that open? They don't know about that. And I think that we have to make an effort to advertise ourselves. Angie was saying something very important at the beginning of this conversation, and is that people that are outside our sector don't know how fascinating it is from the inside. So sometimes you're in a wedding and you talk that you work for the infrastructure sector, and they're like, what? And it's a fascinating sector. But we have to put much more resources and efforts to advertise and explain that. And I think that we still at Globalvia, we need to do that. And put more resources into that.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's happening, but obviously the more role models you have, the easier that job will become.
That's so important. That's so important, because if you don't see it, it's hard to be it. I mean, You need to see that it's possible. You need to see other women and say, I want that. I want that career. I want to be that person. If you don't see those role models, that's hard, because you have to be the first. You have to be the token woman that does that. And that's not easy.
Yeah. And I'm smiling because I just remember being on trains and sometimes you don't see the driver, but I always say to the drivers, look, you've got 1,000 people on your train and they know you're there. Communicate with them. They want to hear from you, So when you hear the driver making an announcement and it's a woman, 4 or 5 years ago, I would, in the carriage, there's always be a bit of got a woman driver. Now you don't hear anything. And as more women make announcements as they're driving trains, so the women on the train think, oh, so this is a job that I could do. To be fair, we're doing quite well at our exec level. 4 out of the 6 on exec are female. So we are really doing quite well in leading the way there and showing women through the organisation that this is definitely a career where you can progress.
I think you're absolutely right about the train drivers. You do sit up when you hear a female voice, much like you do when it's pilots and you realise your pilot in your plane is a woman, and it's silly, but it is something, isn't it? Perhaps we have to overcome as women and just see as much more normal. But I am interested in what you were saying about the cultural barriers women have to deal with, especially at the depots and the stations. And I know you talked about not enough toilets. which I guess can sort of be sorted out. You know, you build more toilets, you have them specifically for women. But what about things like uniforms and perhaps sexism as well? Because that's a big cultural change, isn't it? Certainly sexism. How do you change that?
Shall I go?
I'm happy.
Yeah, I'd like you all to say something.
Okay, so yeah, we've had situations where we started bringing women in, and the trousers were designed for the men and the shirts were designed for men. So we've had to look at our uniform and redesign that. I think culture in the depot, I think this is a thing that it's not just women that are driving that change in the depot. I think it's the younger generation coming in. And it, you know, and the way that depots of old used to operate, I think, you know, Michaela, you talked about the language and things like that. I think any person, regardless of their gender at the moment, I think the younger generation coming in will say that's not an acceptable way for, I don't expect to be spoken to like that, or I don't expect to see that, or I don't expect to hear that. So I think culturally, as we bring in that younger generation, it's not so much the G because of the gender, I think, that's driving the change. It's almost the G because of the generation gap that is driving the change. So, you know, when we so that is helping. But again, we do recognize that we have to make, if you want more women to come in, and it's like, it's not just women, if you want people from more ethnic backgrounds to come in as well, you need to make sure that the workplace reflects their cultures and they're able to be themselves at work.
Okay, so just to be clear, it is definitely worse in older generations compared to the younger generations coming in, or not?
No, I think the younger generation, their way that they speak to each other, they're more, like I say, they're less gender neutral now, aren't they? In their perception of things and what they do. You know, I think it's those people that have been there sort of 50, 60 years. You know, they're like our grandparents, and there always is that little bit of a generation. What I think I can see people coming in now is when you say to people, look, if your daughter was working here, how would you feel if somebody spoke to your daughter like that, or somebody spoke to your wife? And actually now the train drivers are saying, hey, this is a job that my daughter could do. So I think it's about playing it back to them about how would they feel if somebody that they loved was spoken to in the way that they might be speaking to somebody.
Which is very powerful, isn't it? Now, I know both Mac and Maria want to say something on this. So Mac, go ahead. You tell us about the sort of things you've done, or certainly the cultural ways that situations have been overcome so that it's not a problem anymore.
Yeah, I was going to pick up on your question specifically around uniform. And before I moved into this current role, I didn't wear the uniform every day. And it's not until you actually wear it every day that you realize that the pants don't fit properly, the tops aren't made correctly, and there's a lot of pressure on one particular button, it feels like, on those shirts, which is not good for anyone. And so I think it's about, and we sort of are rehashing the point, but it's about bringing in more senior women who are wearing those uniforms every day, who are then in a position to make changes and make changes quickly, and say, you know, this is ridiculous, these pants, you can't sit in these pants and drive for an 8-hour shift without feeling hugely uncomfortable. Or it was 38 degrees the other day and there was no skirt option for our drivers. And so many of them were coming up and saying, you know, please, can we have skirts? So it's just about, I think, living the experience that our people and our employees and our female employees live every day, and then actually implementing the changes.
Okay, so just to be really clear, because I mean, I think we're fascinated. I know it's a small thing like the uniform, but it's actually a big thing. Just describe the uniform and what's it like now? What are the options now?
So right now it's for Melbourne at least, it's a blue set of trousers. They're sort of almost between a jean and a trouser, I'd say, and it's quite an unflattering cut, and it's really low riding. And I'm probably giving too much detail here, but I don't think any woman I know, no woman I know would have ever, you know, designed these jeans. They were designed by a man. I'm convinced of it. I would much prefer sort of a more high waist option. And then our shirts are picture, I guess, a beautiful picnic rug, and that's what our shirts look like. But again, the button placement is all wrong. And yes, they're the female version of the shirts, but anyone who wears them, I think, knows that that they're not quite right, and we have to fix them.
Yeah, and on a serious note, that is your uniform, that is your role almost that you're putting on, isn't it? So if you're not comfortable, it's not going to help you in your job, is it?
No, absolutely.
So is that being changed, or has it changed now?
It's changing, yeah. So we had a big fashion parade in the office the other day where all the women were sort of, throwing different versions of pants at each other and trying them on, because it is about that. It's about actually not just, going into, the uniform store and going, oh, those ones look right. It's about actually putting them on, going for a walk, going for a drive, and thinking, are these the right fit? Quite literally.
Yeah, great. So it's changing, it's happening. And it makes it better for the women. That's brilliant. Maria, what about you? What are your thoughts on how these things have changed or need to change to make it easier really for women to just be women doing their job?
Yeah, absolutely right. We don't have right now those issues with the uniforms, but it's true that we've had some issues, for example, with the seat. And with regards to the seat, we have different weights, we have different generations, we have women, and that's also a topic of conversation sometimes. And what we do is we try to add all those voices and make the changes, as Mac was saying. We've also, with regards to what Angie was saying before about asking that conversation, would you talk to your wife or to your daughter, or would you want your daughter or your wife to be talked like that? We've also done some unconscious bias learning and development actions, and those have been really helpful. We found that at the offices, highways, and also at the railways offices, our employees haven't had the opportunity to have those learning actions. Nobody has ever told them about emotions, about how to deal with emotions, about how to deal with language, about what happened with unconscious bias. And what we do is people from our headquarters here in Madrid, we go and visit all the subsidiaries at least once a year, and we give them we share that knowledge with them, and that really works. And also I think it's very important for them to see that it is one of us going there and staying with them and sharing all that knowledge instead of just hiring somebody else from another company. And that is working really well.
So it's very much internal and then passed on internally as well.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it sounds great, and it's coming through loud and clear that there's lots of changes that are happening, and I can see that you're going to see a lot of the success of this in years to come. Now, staying with, I guess, success in years to come, I'm just wondering about women who want to progress to senior ranks in your industries. Now, you've all done it, and we've heard a little bit about the challenges that you've had to overcome. What is being done, or what sort of programs are being run specifically to help women actually get to break that glass ceiling and to get to those more senior roles? Maria, let's start with you. What's happening with your organization?
At Globalvia, we decided to put in place equality plans. There's a Spanish law specifically for that makes you define equality plans, but only if your organizations are bigger than a certain number of employees. And we decided to do it regardless of the number. So we analyze all the HR processes and also the business processes to see what changes needed to be implemented for that. And with a specific focus on the C-level or the manager level, what we did is we have a compromise that in all our succession plans, which is a very important document for us, there has to be a woman, at least for every senior position, to be ready. And what we do is we help these women to be ready to undertake this position when time comes. You never know when the choice has to be made, whether or not the shareholders will appoint the person that you think should be appointed. But what we do is we'll work to know that we have prepared women in the organization to be able to undertake those roles.
So have you already sort of almost pinpointed those women? You have them in mind already, and you're growing them internally anyway?
Yes.
Right. Okay. What about you, Michaela? What's the future CEO program, I think, is something you can tell us about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is we have a target of hitting 50% women in management by 2025, which is feeling soon. So a lot of work is underway in various programs, but the one that I'm particularly passionate about all of them, but particularly passionate about the Future CEO program, which is a program that we're running. It's got a big name, it's got a big salary attached to it, and we're looking to promote women either within our business or attract external candidates who are extremely high performers, who have already done the hard yards and sort of going through a graduate program, be it at a law firm, at a consulting firm, and wherever it may be, to come into our business, to learn the ropes, to learn how to drive a bus, to learn how to dispatch, to learn health and safety, HR, all the various functions, so that one day they can be the future CEO of our business. And the most exciting bit about it is we've had 30 internal applicants, which just shows that we've got women in our business who want to be the CEO of our business one day. And it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And did you say your target was by 2025, so a couple of years away?
That's right. So that's for the management positions. Where we see that we have much more underrepresentation is amongst our drivers. And so for the whole business, we've got a target of 50% by 2030.
Okay. And does that include diversity as well, inclusion, all of that? You're hoping you will hit that target with all of that included?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got lots of targets in place, sort of similar to Maria, LGBTIQ+, and ensuring that we get representation across all gender diverse, all gender diversities is hugely important to us. And so, yes, that also forms part of our commitments.
Okay, well, as you say, 30 internal applicants already sounds good, doesn't it? Angie, what about you? Tell us about the helping women get to where you are, basically.
We have some targets set in our contract of where we need to be around diversity, equality, and having a balanced workforce. I think, though, that's not what's driving us to want to do that. We recognise that the benefits of having a more diverse workforce. So again, the things that we're doing around the advertising, as I said, we've got quite a strong exec team with 4 out of the 6 execs team are women at the moment. So when we're on the senior management calls, there's a really strong presence that you can get to the top of your game in this business. And actually, it's not just our organisation. I'm seeing a lot with Network Rail as well, who's the big infrastructure provider. They have got more women at much more senior levels, and I think that's the last couple of years of people coming through the rank. We do succession planning as well, but when we are recruiting for managers in those management and executive grades, we are saying we need to see, when you're bringing people to interview, that we have got a good blend and a balance of people to interview, not that we're just got sort of one type of person to interview. So I think it's making some of the recruitment agencies work a little bit harder in terms of their base of where they work from, but also, again, you are seeing they are trying to bring people in like other industries, but we haven't got a specific program like the CEO program. But again, it's just generally saying, there is no reason why women can't thrive in transport.
Okay. And do you find those recruitment agencies are receptive to that little bit extra pressure that you put on them to make sure you have that blend that you want at that level?
Yeah, and I think they get better at getting their network together now as well. I think in the beginning they might have struggled with it a bit more, but now you don't even have to say. They'll say, we're expecting you want a balanced, you want us to present a wide cross-section of candidates to recruit from, and we're saying, yes, we expect it to be balanced. Yeah.
Okay. We are coming up to the last 10 to 15 minutes of our conversation. I know time flies when you're having fun, hasn't it? It's really going quite quickly. So if you have any questions, audience, please do get them in and use the option that's available on your screen, and we'll get those to Angie, to Maria, and also to Michaela as quickly as we can. I'm going to carry on, though, because I do want to ask you about work-life balance, because as I said, you're all accomplished women. You've achieved very highly in your own organizations and equally in this industry as a whole, but there is a balance, isn't there? And do you feel you have it? Again, a question to all of you. I can see all of you sort of think, the balanced answer to this, but I'm happy to admit I don't think I've achieved a work-life balance, but I think I'm juggling. That is how life is. But I would love to hear from all of you. So Angie, do you want to start?
I'm laughing because I suspect my response and my husband's response would be completely different.
Yes.
I would probably say I've got that work-life balance, and he would say, I haven't seen you for the last 2 days. I don't think you've got that work-life balance. So I think there's a couple of things. I think you have to work at having that work-life balance, and part of that work-life balance is having really competent people that work for you. So therefore you don't, you're allowing, when you're at a senior level, you can't be running everything yourself. You have to have people in your organization that do that. So obviously having competent people helps you with that. I think it is as well is about making sure that you do have time for yourself, and because it's really important, because if you don't make time for yourself, you're not going to be performing particularly well, and that's not good on your team. So with my team, I'll always have a regular check-in with them, and at interviews I will ask people, what do you do to relax? How are you going to manage your work-life balance? And if somebody says to me, oh, I'm really resilient and I'm super this, and I can just work all the hours, that doesn't matter, I'm really dedicated, committed, and I'm thinking, you don't really understand what I'm asking you here. I'm asking you, how are you going to be able to have some downtime and be with your family, so that when you come to work, you are the best person that you can be, and especially when you're leading big teams of people. So to answer your question, I can cut off quite quickly. I can go from work and I can sort of, okay, I'm out now, I'm with friends. My phone is always on, but I'm not always looking at it. And my husband is very good at saying, is that work you're doing? And I'll be like, no.
And secretly it is. Let me just send this email is usually the answer, isn't it? Right. We have got some questions coming in. So Maria and Mac, I'm going to ask you as well about your work-life balance very quickly. And then I do want to get a couple of these questions in. So have you got the work-life balance? Have you sorted it, Mac?
No, and I can't wait to the day I can finally answer that question with a yes. But I think that sort of similar to Angie's point into the people that she asked the question of, but right now I very much feel like it's a choice. And I think that to change that mindset, instead of thinking this is happening to me, but rather I'm opting in because I can right now of where I am in my life, I think is a really important step change, to feel as though I'm an active participant and I'm wanting to strive for more and work extra hours and be there every single day, from when the first bus goes to when the last bus comes in at night. And so no, not yet, but I'm working on it. And your husband sounds very similar to mine, Angie. I think if I got caught out one more time, with the emails on the couch whilst I'm trying to pay attention to him as well, he's going to kill me. But we'll get there.
Yep, I hear. I think we all agree with you on that one. Maria, you've got the other complication. Well, I say complication, it's an advantage, isn't it? You're a working mum of twins, really. So,
yes.
So there's a lot, isn't there, for you to balance?
Yes, and it's been a struggle, and it is already. It is nowadays a struggle. When we had to choose the picture for today's meeting, it's a chair that's on a ball. And we did it because that's the equilibrium that I think that women have to manage. At least it is in my case. My answer is like Angie's and Max. I'm not there yet. I don't know if I ever will. There are weeks in which I feel prouder, and there are weeks in which I feel that I'm not performing well in any of my roles. And that is something that I think that women have to struggle with, because the equality talk is not there yet. I mean, and I feel that I want to be a mom, and for me, it's very, very important. But I also want to feel fulfilled in my role. So hopefully, I'm giving my kids the example of a woman that wanted to do both things, and I think that that's a great example that I want to set for them. But I'm struggling as well.
Yeah, we all are, don't worry, and we are all with you. So let's go to these questions, because we've got quite a few that have come in. This is from Dante at GTO on International Women's Day. Why is it important to build equal gender representation in transport, given there's quite a way to go as of today? I think we've sort of answered that, haven't we? I'll just throw that out to any one of you want to answer that very quickly, and then we'll go on to the next question. No, ladies. I think we've sort of
yeah,
done
I think we've covered it. I think it's really, really important that that the businesses that run public transport, like each of ours do, that those companies actually look like the communities that they serve. And so for us, it's really about making sure that inside those doors and behind those walls looks like what's out on our trains and on our buses.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. This is from Kirsty Bull, who says, hi, at Brighton and Hove Metrobus, we have launched our own Call It Out campaign, launched at our recent management conference. Women are on board with this, but how do we get males to feel comfortable to embrace calling it out when it's clear they would rather walk away or avoid conflict? It's a good question, isn't it? Again, I think you touched on it, but how do you get males on board, I think is the question there.
I would say talking and talking and talking again, and then and doing it. I think is very, very important from a place of hope. We have accomplished a lot, and we have to celebrate that. And I really like the definition of Brené Brown of hope. It's not an emotion; it's a cognitive process. We know we have a goal, we have a pathway, and we are agents of that. So, and I think that with that, we have to wake up every day with that goal in mind and knowing that we're going to try again until we have all those men convinced that this is what we all want. And for that, we have to talk to them and listen and learn.
Absolutely. Lynn says, brilliant to hear you all. Very inspirational. Thank you. Advert, women in transport, write your own job description. Curious. Come and join our web talk, see how you can make a difference. What do you think? I think it's a great suggestion, isn't it? And also we've got something from Claire Mahoney, who says, interested to know from a GV Kinetic perspective, how you're encouraging a sense of allyship across the organization for gender diversity and wider diversity. So do you want to take that? This is GV and Kinetic. So how you're encouraging a sense of allyship across the organization. So how basically you're getting everybody on board.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I think that between the two organisations, we came together really during the pandemic, and it was over Zoom that we came to know each other. And we had it was amazing how much our cultures seemed shared, and I mean, as if we'd been friends for a really long time. So that I think was the first step. And then when we sat down and we actually looked at our values, there was so much overlap, and the fact that I was put in touch with Maria very early on in the process, and we sat down and we've been speaking about these issues for close to a year now, I think goes to show that we have the support of our CEOs, both at Globalvia and at Kinetic. And so we're sitting down and we're sharing ideas, and this forum is one way in which we're trying to then open that up so that we can get feedback and really progress as a wider group.
Okay, great. Did you want to say something on that, Maria?
I think that with regards to allies, which I think are key, you have people that are natural allies, and you found them along the way. You find people that are really open to have those conversations, that really see the world as that they want to work for an organization that provides equal opportunities for everybody, regardless of the gender, of their origin, of their political ideas. And you have to bring them on. I think that you really have to make them ambassadors of that. Sometimes that can be formally done, and sometimes that can be informally done. And from the HR perspective, you have to bear in mind who those allies are, because that gives a message to the organization. If when you have to do a promotion, you work with these people and you promote a person that you see that naturally fosters this kind of dialogue and this kind of conversation, I think that gives a very strong message to the people.
Yeah, it certainly does. Talking of strong messages, Andrew has sent this in, and he says, what is the top tip that men can have in order to become allies and support women in the workplace? The top tip. So let's go down the panel with this. Ange, what's the best thing men can do to help women in the workplace?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question, and quite a difficult one. I think it's really the fact that they're just asking how can they help is a big step forward, to be quite honest, and saying what is it you need me to do. I think that over everything is the top thing. If men are actually saying, without having to be nudged or pushed or corralled or anything, what can I do to help? that in itself is a great start.
Okay, brilliant. Mac, what do you think? What should men do?
I think to just listen. I think if you can come from a place of listening, I get so often told by men what we need to do to fix our female problem. And I just want to think, are you even listening to yourself? You need to listen to the women in your business because they have the answers. It's just about listening to them, and then we can take them and actually use them to make change.
Yeah, listening and just letting them be, isn't it, really? I think that's what you're saying. Maria, what about you?
Yeah, I would highlight what Mac just had said and Angie. I think we should wear a t-shirt that said listen, because sometimes the answer is going to be a much better answer if it's by all of us and not just by the men wearing the crown. It's like, put the crown down and let's talk about this and let's find the answer together.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what it's about, isn't it? Collaboration, I think. And that's how we'll all move forward. I just want to read out, I know we've got a couple more questions, but sadly our time is running out. So I just want to read a couple of these comments. We've got this one, which has come from Irina, I think it is. I hope I pronounced your name right, Irina. It says, great to see such strong women shaping the future of transport. Congratulations with the International Women's Day. Irina is from Globalvia, so that's definitely that's a lovely
she's a wonderful board member. She's an example from all of us. She's from Russia, and it's an inspiring woman that we're very, very lucky to have as a board member.
Brilliant. So that's a lovely endorsement from her. And then just finally, thank you for the opportunity to participate in Equality Talking, a truly interesting step on the path to equality. Above all, it makes a positive contribution to the current challenges of improving humanity. Truly empowered, extraordinary women. So I think that's a lovely comment to end on, because sadly our time has run out. We do have to leave it there. I hope you have enjoyed the discussion certainly as much as we have. Our huge thanks then to Angie, to Mac and to Maria, who've been brilliant, really answered frankly and positively and given us a real insight into what the industry is like. We also want to thank our team who put the webinar together, and thank you, the audience, for your questions, your comments and your engagement. As I say, we certainly enjoyed being here today, and I hope you've had as much enjoyment from this conversation as we have. There is a lot of work that's being done, good work that's being done, progress is being made. I'm sure that's going to continue, and I would like to wish you all continued success for the future. Thank you all again. Enjoy the rest of International Women's Day. Celebrate in style. And from all of us here, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.